Are you responsible for delivering training or designing training or both? Then you're going to want to stick around. Hey, it's Jeff with YourLearningCareer.com. Today, I'm going to share with you 10 strategies that you can use to make your training programs more effective. And along with that, I'm going to provide you with a free download. This is going to be a training planner that you can use to really make sure that you're following all of these strategies. Number one, you want to make sure that you identify specific learning goals. Now, these aren't necessarily a bunch of learning goals that you're going to share with your training participants. These are mainly for you as the trainer, as the training designer, to make sure that you are putting together the right training for your audience. You really want to sit down and think specifically, what is it that I want people to be able to do as a result of this training? And that's the key. You want to keep it very action oriented, not just what will they know or what are they going to be familiar with. You want to be very specific about what will they be able to do. And that's how you want to really set the tone for those learning objectives. Number two, you want to make it relevant. One of the challenges that I face whenever I'm putting together a training program is when I am working with various leaders and subject matter experts who seem to want to throw everything into the training, whether it's relevant or not. As you start having discussion with leaders, they'll start, oh, they need to know this, they need to know this. And then at the end of it all, you've got a list of things this long that really are not relevant to your learners. So I always think of myself as a defender of the learner, and I will listen politely, respectfully to the leaders or the subject matter experts when they throw all this stuff. But at the end of the day, it's my job to go through it and only take the things that are actually relevant. Now, if there is some nice to know information that I would like to provide with the learners, great. Maybe I'll throw it into a job aid, or maybe I'll put it out on something, on the company intranet. But the point is, you don't have to take everything and try to cram it into your training program. You want to filter out those types of things that aren't relevant and focus just on the meat of what is most relevant for your learners. Number three, use a variety of delivery methods. So, a lot of times when we're planning out training, the first thing we think of is, lecture, right? Whether it's virtual or in person, we think of a person presenting information. And that's fine, and that might be something that you do want to include. But try to challenge yourself to think of other ways to deliver the information. Is there stuff that could be put into a handout, a job aid, something they can print that doesn't need to be in the training session? Are there self-paced things they could do? Is there maybe a mini e-learning module they could take, or a mini podcast, or a video? Are there games? Are there activities? So really try to challenge yourself to get away from just this person getting up and talking to a bunch of slides, because that gets very boring very quick. Number four, use real-world examples and scenarios. So whenever I'm conducting a training class or I'm putting together, designing a training class, I always try to put in as many real-world examples and stories as I can, because this goes back to being relevant. I want whatever it is I'm talking about to really resonate with people. And so I find that when I tell a story, like if I want to give an example of good customer service, I tell a story of how, hey, I used to work at the front desk of a large hotel, and I heard a guest mention it was their birthday, and I had cookies delivered to their room. So it's not just me saying, hey, you need to give good customer service, but when I give the real world example or scenario, it really helps them understand the concept that I'm trying to get across. Number five, and this goes hand in hand with those real world examples, give them opportunities to practice. So don't just tell them about some real world examples, but let them practice some real world examples or scenarios. So that's something that I always like to build into my training. scenarios and opportunities for them to practice in scenarios. And what's great about these kinds of practices is then you as the facilitator, you can listen to what people are saying and you can come right in and give feedback and tell them, hey, that was great. That's exactly what you'd want to say. Or maybe you correct them. Maybe they didn't say the right thing and you say, oh, you know what? Here's another way that you can approach that. And you can give them that live, direct feedback right then and there. Number 6, ensure that the training is accessible and easy to use. For example, how many people in your company are colorblind? Do you ever think about that when you're putting together some slides or something for a training class? How many people in your company maybe have a hearing impairment or are visually impaired? So these are just some examples of things that you really should be thinking about when you're putting together your training, because of course we want everybody to be able to get the information in a way that works for them. So we want to make it as easy as possible. That's why a lot of times for our training programs, we will do recordings for people to access later. We may provide transcripts of the training. So for someone who can't hear it, they can get the transcript of the training. So these are just some things to keep in mind when you're putting together your program. Number 7, encourage learner participation. This is usually something I see a lot with newer or very inexperienced presenters who tend to want to just get up there and talk, and they really don't allow the learners, the audience, to get involved. They might pause for a question. Okay, are there any questions? Any questions? Okay. And then they continue. They give them like a second to ask a question. Oh, nope, no questions? Okay, let's go. And when you do that, you're basically sending the signal to the audience of, I don't want you to ask questions. And they pick up on that, and then next thing you know, nobody is. And that's why when I'm training or I'm designing my training, I want to put those opportunities in there where I'm asking the audience to give the answer versus just feeding them the answers. I like to get them to tell me and tell each other. So you really want to, build that in there. Whenever you see an opportunity as the facilitator, you want to encourage that participation. Number 8, make the training fun and engaging. Now there are tons of ways you can do this. There are lots of different activities that you can use. There are games you can play. I've used game shows in my training. And then recently, I actually used an app called Mentimeter, or Menti for short. So I had review questions up. People could use their phones to answer a question. We had the results projected up on the screen. You could see who was ahead. And at the end, you could see who got the most right, who got them the fastest. So that was really fun and people really enjoyed that. But that's just one example. There are lots of creative things you can do to make it more fun, make it more engaging. I'm gonna link to a video here that will help you with some more ideas, and I'll also put some more ideas for you in the description below. Number 9, measure results. Now, how do you measure results? Well, probably the most common way people know to measure results for training is the evaluation form, right? We've all been to training classes where at the end, they either have us go to a link to fill out a survey, or they give us paper and want us to fill out the survey. And that's okay. They kind of give me some surface level information like, oh, people liked the training, great. But now what am I going to do with that? I'm not saying the results from those types of evaluations are worthless. I do sometimes get some good insight from those, but oftentimes they're kind of quickly filled out and I don't get a whole lot. The ultimate is to get results from after the training. Like, what behaviors changed on the job? Like, for example, if I just taught a sales class on a particular product, I'd love to know how much did sales increase for that product, because that really speaks volumes. When you are talking to your boss and you can say, hey, our sales went up 10% after the people attended our training. That's very powerful when you can show those kinds of results. And then other types of results I like to get are from talking to people afterwards. You might have a group of them that you get together and say, hey, I just wanted to follow up with you. You know, we're looking at our training, we're looking at our next session, and we really want to know what went well and what we can improve on. Can you help us with that? And people, when you get them in that mind frame and not just at the end of the class, you get a lot more useful feedback from them. Number 10, continually improve your training program. We always do a debrief and we look at what went well from our perspective and what didn't go so well. And we take that along with what we hear from the participants, and we always try to make every session better. And it doesn't mean you have to blow up the whole thing and redo everything. You know, a lot of times they're going to be very incremental improvements. It might be something like, oh, I noticed, you know, this typo on XYZ slide. Fix the typo. Or, oh, you know, this activity didn't go as well as I thought it would. And maybe you adjust that particular activity. But the point is, you're always trying to make it a little bit better, a little bit better. So there you have it. Those are my 10 strategies for boosting the effectiveness of your training programs. Once again, don't forget, I got a free download for you. Check the link out in the description. Grab that free training planner. That will help to keep you on track as you prepare for your next training program. If you found this helpful, I always appreciate a like. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.